Hello and welcome to Fiber Trek. My name is Sarah. Welcome. You are most welcome on this creative journey here in the Northwoods of Maine. I have a few different projects to share with you on this episode, as well as a couple books that might be nice additions for your library. There's going to be quilting and knitting and spinning as well. Thank you to those that contribute financially, whether that's through Patreon or Ko-fi. I am humbled and deeply grateful for the support. I am so glad that you're all here. Let's catch up.
Since I last saw you, I have taken a little bit of time to do some experimenting and gathering of supplies so that I can use this summer for a number of creative endeavors around paper and bookbinding, journaling, art journaling, eco printing, natural dyeing, all the things that I can really get stuck into while I'm in one place. If you're new here or unfamiliar, I commute throughout the week for work, and so I don't spend all of my time at my home, and during the summer I get to do that. So I think, well appointed for all of the things I want to try. First up being botanical printing. I discovered this particular process from Jane Dunewald's channel on YouTube, and I have been hemming and hawing about purchasing a heat press. I've been looking for one on Facebook Marketplace and eBay, but I thought ultimately I should just buy a new one, and I found this recommendation through a vlog, and it is a smaller heat press, but it has a small plate. It has a working plate of about 12 inches by 10 inches, which is perfectly fine for the compositions that I'm doing and the size that I work in collage and my journals, etc. So I had to move away from the 15 by 15 size, which is pretty typical. And I was able to find this one, and it was under $100. So I felt like that could be an easy entry point for this experiment. So Jane Dunewald, a while ago, 2 years ago, I think, maybe even 3, I featured some eco printing I did with steaming and building packs, bundles that she highlights in her books. And I'm gonna showcase them a little bit after this segment, so you can see those books and how they're laid out. So I've done the steamer. One of the things about printing with the heat press is you get very crisp images, and you can be very cognizant about placement. It can be one-sided versus double-sided. Both processes have their benefits. In this particular process, you saw me using modifiers of copper sulfate, and I used white vinegar. I also experimented with adding some Tim Holtz spray stains. That is the oxide pigment and just the plain dye. So those went on, and I did experiment with using some turmeric to see what would happen. I have used that in my cyanotypes in the past. So all of the process is outlined in her videos and her book, and I thought that I had really good success and I achieved some very cool effects. I do think it's pretty early in the summer for some of the tannins to have really settled into the leaves. So like my maples didn't come out really like clear and crisp, but I'm wondering is as I move into later summer if that will work better. And also yeah, some of the flowers didn't really pop the way I thought they would, but the birch and the sensitive ferns really showed up for me, and that was using a copper sulfate. I have experimented with the ferrous sulfate, and that brings out obviously more of the satin tones, so blacks and deep browns. And so depending on what you're looking for, you can fool around with the modifiers. All of the paper is mordanted with alum acetate per her recommendation. I have used alum phosphate, and I think if you were using protein fibers, so your wool and your silk, that would be a great mordant to use. But because I'm using plant fibers in the paper, I wanted to kind of fool around with her recommendation and see if I got a different result. So there's some experimentation to do around that. All the same, I'm really quite happy with my finished items. This is I think this is a sensitive fern. This is mordanted, this is modified with vinegar. And then here's my maple. I get a nice outline, so it might be fun to go in with some pen and ink and do some decorative work. And this is a rose leaf modified with vinegar. So this was just vinegar, and there's some self-heal here. So this is an example of using some of the Tim Holtz spray stains. And this is in brick. This is birch modified with copper sulfate, and it looks like some rose here. So again, you can use the entire composition, but I think as we progress through the summer, we'll see how these unfold into collage. And again, going over them with a micron pen in ink, highlighting the detail work, I think could be really fun. This is birch and sensitive fern with more of the Tim Holtz. I really love this one. And this is done with copper sulfate. And then the more copper sulfate. All done on the heat press. This is the one I attempted to work with turmeric on. So this really gets baked in. So I let that dry, and I'll probably rinse it again. You do get some embossing, I'm not sure you can see that, of the stems and the leaves on the backside. So there's a lot of fodder there to work with for texture, for the visual piece. So yeah, I'm looking forward to building these out a little bit. Like I said, I've done a printing session with a friend and my mom. The first one I did, and I used iron or ferrous sulfate, and I had a lot of great luck with that. It was, again, at the beginning of the summer. So this has been a really fun kind of experiment, and every time I open the press, it's kind of like a little bit of a reveal. I get really excited. I know I've talked about that before in my previous videos with this particular process, so I'm not going to expound upon that, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed that little look. There'll be more of that this summer as I kind of pull in different dyes and different leaves and look at different seasons and how different plants perform. So yeah, so with that being said, let's take a look at the books and see if they appeal to you and your library.
Collaborate with Mother Nature, Botanical Printing with a Heat Press by Jane Donavold, I have featured before, and I do think it's worth highlighting again because this technique is really interesting and innovative. The book is chock-a-block full of information not only about the basics, but it does move you on to finishing your work as well as a gallery of inspiration so you can see encaustic and fabric and how different people have used carriers and mediums. So I found this book to be really valuable in my botanical printing pursuits. Her other book, Best of Both Worlds, Enhanced Botanical Printing, takes you through a steaming process, but again, it covers a variety of mediums and ways to highlight and exemplify the work and how to use a lot of different types of dyes. So both of these books I find to be really helpful in botanical printing pursuits. Here I am getting an opportunity to play with my Japanese taupe fabrics. If you've been with me a while, you'll know that I had been a member of a subscription through Pinwheels, and they are a shop located, I think, in upstate New York that specializes in Japanese taupe fabrics. And I have been collecting these and loving them in their perfect pristine state for a while. On my last studio vlog for patrons, I talk a little bit about cutting into those, my plan for them. I am working on a larger quilt from a different taupe block book. The blocks finish at 9.5. Well, they finish at 9, but the overall measurement is 9.5 by 9.5. So the pieces are bigger, and I'm doing that on my machine. But there were offcuts from these, and I just got such a hankering
to work with a bunch of them that I decided to grab Yoko Sihito's book, Traditional Block Patterns, and these have a variety of projects that correlate to the block patterns. And I am making the 1,000 pyramid block, 1,000 pyramids with an S on the end, to put together a small bag. Let's see if I can bring it up for you very quickly. So this is the bag by Yoko Sihito. I do find the instructions and construction a little intimidating, but I'm just going to relish the hand stitching moment and the process of going through my scraps and picking out pieces. I don't have a rhyme or reason. I think in the block that is used as an example in this book, she does a dark and a light, a dark and a light, and a dark and a light alternating. And I'm just doing a patchwork kind of feel. So yeah, I didn't want to have to cut into all sorts of different fabrics. I wanted to use what I was already kind of working with. And I also wanted to add in a few William and Morris prints just for fun and a little bit of sparkle. So that's what you saw me working on. I finished one row. I'm thinking that this block is going to be somewhere around 9 inches square, and then I can cut the piece that I need. Only one portion of the bag is quilted and uses the block. Well, strike that. I think the whole bag is quilted, but only one portion of the bag uses a pieced block. So I have some other fabrics which I think will complement this particular piece from French General and Robert Kaufman. I can also use some other taupe fabrics that I have, but just really loved the whimsical opportunity this has provided to pull different fabrics and just play around, and also have them finish precisely where they should be. Yoko Sihito is featured on a number of videos by Martingale Press, which that publication company is no longer, but the videos are still up, and she does detail her hand sewing technique and how to start and stop, how she does all that. So if you're looking for a visual reference for this particular technique, I would direct you there, but there are lots of tutorials and blog posts about hand stitching, and I just am using my best skill set that I have right now. I'm a little clumsy. I do find the small pieces to be a challenge, even after having worked on a couple other. If you've been with me, the Stars Upon Stars quilt would be an example of that. But all the same, I am thoroughly enjoying the whole process for their picking colors, putting them together, pressing it, and yeah, so I'm using a 1/4 inch seam. The triangles that I'm using are just around 1 1/4 inch, and yeah, I kind of just went with it, and it's working out. So we'll see what happens next. I've got, like I said, a couple of projects going on. The quilt block, I have this little bag, I have a quilt project for Cameron I need to finish. I've been contemplating cutting out the quilts for my nieces. We'll see if I get to that before the fall. I'd like to have those done before the fall, but again, I've just been really thrilled with using these fabrics, and it's just been really what's the word I'm looking for? Restful, I think, is the way to frame using these Japanese taupe fabrics and patterns. Just really restful. I'm not like in a mad dash half square triangle marathon, which I really should be doing for Cameron's quilt. So that's what's been going on in the quilting. There's more to come, I'm sure, now that I'm off. I do have some chores I need to go work on, and I think there is a Ruby swim about to happen. So I will see you soon to possibly talk about some knitting. Welcome to the knitting and spinning portion of the episode. I just want to take a moment before we continue in to the content to thank those that contribute financially through Patreon or through Ko-fi. I am deeply grateful, humbled, and encouraged by that financial contribution, which adds so much value to the extra amount of production work that goes into capturing some of these pursuits and these moments. And it's something I very much enjoy. But documentation is its own speciality, which I am still learning and growing and hoping I can get better at. And then there's the actual skill itself of what we're doing. So thank you so much for compensating and contributing to that piece of this endeavor. This really is kind of a portfolio of work, and I've take it to heart that so many of you show up and share in it with me. So thank you. If you are in a position on YouTube to like or subscribe, or if you're sharing the vlog with friends and sending subscription opportunities for them for the blog, thank you so much. You can sign up over at fibertrek.wordpress.com. All of the videos on that site are ad-free if you prefer a version like that. So you can do that over there. I upload onto Vimeo. I pay for a certain amount of storage. I pay for an ad-free blog so that that feels seamless and inviting and not cluttered, etc. So thank you so much again for all of you that contribute, offer insight, comments. I read them all. I don't always get a chance to respond, but that doesn't mean it's not meaningful and the conversation isn't important to me. So thank you. Right, let's talk about where I'm at. I think in my last video or vlog, I was talking about Alice Starmore and that I completed the knitting of the belt. This is a creative course that she offers. This is a belt, and then there's a purse. It takes you through all the steps of creating this, I would call it a fold piece of fabric. You knit it and then you felt it. You wet felt it, and then you can embroider on it. So I ordered the kit that goes with it. So it has all of the knitting, for my squirrel friends out there. It has all of the knitting for the belt and the bag, and then all of the embellishments. So you learn about creating tassels and beads and embroidery stitches, etc. So this is forthcoming on the vlog as a wet felt project. I don't see it happening today, but it will be happening very soon. So stay tuned. That is definitely on my radar to get done and get to the embellishment phase of the project. That is a finite amount of time that you get the class. I think you get it for 6 months. You can buy an extension. So I really want to get this finished and into the embellishment parts, etc., so that I can take full advantage of the subscription. Alice Starmore. I have almost finished the first sleeve of my Roots and Shoots sweater by Tati Litzak. I'm knitting that in New Tiden. One of the colors, the main color, is held together with one strand of Knitting for Olive mohair. The other contrasting color is just one of their natural colorways, and I'm holding that double because the weight of those pencil rovings felt different, and I wanted to try to even that out. So doubled on the contrasting color and held together with one strand of silk mohair in the main color. So that is just about done. As I said, I've worked my way to the cuff. I'm doing a corrugated ribbing, and then I will pick up for the other sleeve. The yell has had a resurgence. I had a couple friends visit over the past week that have been a huge impact and force in my color work Marie Wallen experience. So it's super helpful to have them here. I've been stuck on a couple color combinations. I think I've got it, and I'm ready to start and get that going. Yell, Tati Litzak, Roots and Shoots. Yell is by Marie Wallen. I'm knitting that in Jameson's Spindrift. I told you about Tetilot Fruits and Shoots. Spinning. I have been working on a bat from Artifacts of Appreciation, which was a gift to me from a friend. And I'm just about to finish that up. I've put all of it onto one bobbin, and I am going to wind that off onto separate weaving bobbins to ply it, to try to just even out some of the spinning. This is a technique I learned from Judith Mackenzie McEwen and her video 3 Bags Full. And so I'm gonna finish all of that and put it onto, as I said, different bobbins and then ply that together. Most likely this will be a 2-ply, but I'm super psyched to have something finished to ply and get it off the wheel. I have a number of other spinning projects that I'm thinking about. I discovered some Romney that I had from Bybrook Farm that I'm excited to get going. My friend Emily of Fibertown brought a sampling of Gulf Coast native and a beautiful Romney fleece that I'd like to fool around with. I'm thinking in the fall of doing a short mini series called Woolwise, which takes you from the raw fleece through to something finished. I just kind of wanted to compile a little homage from my heart about wool in a more consolidated way. I have a number of episodes way back, I've been doing this a long time, which go through different pieces of the process, which talk about wool, different breeds. I did a 4-part series with my friends called Fleecewise, and each of them did a separate part and I contributed, but I thought it would be nice to kind of pull it together, create those 4 little mini episodes, and then put it out there and people can cross-reference with their experiences. They can use it as a jumping off point. You know, they can just sink into a wonderful discussion about wool. So anyway, that is forthcoming, but I'm super glad that Emily brought these 2 different fleeces. The Romney is a very long stapled and the Gulf Coast is a little shorter. Gulf Coast is a critical breed according to the Livestock Conservancy here in the United States. So I've worked with it before when I did my hap, and I knit the half hansel hap, and I used all of the critical and threatened breeds. I can't remember the correct terminology. But again, it would be nice to kind of consolidate some of that into something. So for me, this will just be a project to work through and you can enjoy it or not. But I think, again, like I said, it's kind of to do an homage to this material that really brought me here and to take an opportunity to dig deeper and be more creative with the documentation. So that's forthcoming. So Artifacts of Appreciation, I got some raw fleece. I'm looking at some beautiful braids that I picked up from Port Fiber last year that are really calling to me. I have the sweet little Romney that I picked up a couple years ago that's being spun on my Lendrum. I know that it's exciting. I have a friend who you may know as Knitty Stew, Leanne, who is getting into spinning. And so she and I have been sharing some of that together. And her excitement is feeding my excitement. And so it's just great to see somebody enter into the spinning world and then have that reverberate through my own journey. And so that's been really inspiring. If you don't know Leanne, check her out at the Knitty Stew. I'm sure she'll be talking about her spinning forthcoming. So yeah, so spinning has really re-entered wool. I'm just feeling really deep about wool lately. Just I've been thinking about how long I've been doing this, and so those pieces have been surfacing for me. So that is really what's been happening over the past month here. I know it was a bit of a break. I think I mentioned that I have just felt like I was at the well had kind of run dry. I needed to figure that out, and I think I have. So it was nice to take a break from the documentation and experiment, play with some things that I wanted to share and how I wanted to work that in and get a broader view of how all of those would line up. So yeah, so I'm glad to be kind of on the up and up with that. and I'm glad to be home and enjoying the lake. So I think all of that has contributed to just feeling bolstered in what I have to offer here. So on that note, I think I'm going to bid you a fond farewell. Many fond wishes and blessings, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.